Smooth 98.1. It is gone past 5:15, and this is Business Hub on the Smooth Drive.
That's right. It's time for us to talk business. No better time to do that. Well, every time is a good time to talk business. And of course, we're not alone. Rotus is joining us. Very good evening to you, Rotus.
Hey, good evening, Ayo. Good evening, Shokwe. Good to be with you all again.
Yep, that's right. So today, let's just dive right into our topic of discussion. We're taking a look at the finance bill, looking at the concerns, the higher education tax, and so on and so forth. A lot of talking points on this evening, Rotus.
And speaking about talking, we'd love you to get in on this conversation. There are so many different ways that you can join us. If you're feeling like Twitter is your thing, then use hashtag BusinessHub981 on Twitter. You can also go up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos, where we are streaming live, and join the live chat or send your WhatsApp messages in 20809 440 981.
That's right. So let's go, Rotus. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the President Buhari signed the 2023 budget into law today. And again, 21 trillion naira or so, about a trillion naira more than what he submitted to the National Assembly. But there was the Finance Act needs to be tweaked a little bit. The Assembly passed it, but he hasn't quite signed it yet. They want to tweak a few things because there is some pushback as to the taxes that it seeks to raise and the levies on the oil and gas sector and a number of other sectors with respect to the money that it's trying to raise. So I think he sent that back to the Ministry of Finance to tweak a few things. But the thing here is that the Finance Act is looking to increase taxes and levies from businesses in Nigeria. So if you're a business listening to this, you're probably going to be paying a higher education tax, for instance, which I think was 2.5, it's now going to 3%. Corporate taxes in Nigeria are already one of the highest in the world, at about 30%. I think effectively, if you add all the increases in this Finance Act, it's going to go to like 36. So we have a situation where the business community is saying, hey, listen, you are overtaxing a small pool of businesses that are already overburdened as it is. They're paying levies to the states, local governments, and so on and so forth. So that's the gist of it. It's basically, can the private sector push back enough? I doubt they can. I think, this administration is on its way out. They're trying to look for as much revenue as they can get. And they'll probably tweak a few things here and there, but the increase in taxes that are there are probably going to, they're probably going to be where they are. So are they asking too much from businesses? They are. That is essentially the gist of this new Finance Act.
Okay, so you've just given us a rock and a hard place, Rotus, when it comes to businesses. So what can we expect to see? Because if we're saying that, and I would agree with you with the businesses on them being overtaxed, because they talk about multiple taxations and high taxations and that. But if you're now saying that there's nothing they can do about it, what would the consequences be?
The consequence is that you pass on those higher costs to your customers. If you think about what happened with the aviation Jet A1 fuel and how because of the war in Ukraine, oil prices went up, and so diesel, which is deregulated, climbed as well, and the aviation sector was under a lot of pressure, particularly the airlines. What did? They eventually just passed that increase on to consumers. There was a time when a one-way ticket domestically was about 100,000 or so, or 120, going from maybe Lagos to Abuja or Abuja to Port Harcourt and so on. So prices spiked. So if you are a business and you are facing higher costs, either through higher operational costs or higher taxes, higher finance costs or interest, higher rates and so on, then you will pass them on to your customers because you got to survive one way or another. Speaking of which, interest rates have also been going up. The Monetary Policy Committee has been increasing rates because we're trying to face inflation. And you as a business now, what that means is that you are paying because most loans in this country are floating rate loans. They're not fixed rate loans. So you're going to be paying higher loans, higher interest rates on your loans. You're already facing higher inflation. So your cost of production is already high. And then you've got this Finance Act, which is going to push taxes up on you. So what are you going to do with this rock and hard place that Sope has mentioned? You have to find a way to shift those costs to consumers. And you know how it is. You go somewhere you normally frequent, you'll see a sign plastered on the wall. Due to prevailing market circumstances, we are increasing the cost of our goods and services. Look at bread. Bread now is what, 1,000 naira for a loaf. I mean, it's you know, things are going up. So that's just the unfortunate situation that businesses here find themselves. And again, this, again, we keep talking about this. Okay, I was about to say next year. This year, we're already here. So this year,
yes, we are.
It's going to be tight.
Consumers, the grass of the business world.
Very, very, very tight.
You mentioned passing on the burden to the consumers and and all that. Now let's actually look at Nigeria's informal sector. I mean, this is a sector that is not captured like that. Your vulcanizer on the streets, your mama something selling akara, whatever. How exactly do we then formalize?
That's a tough one. We've been talking about formalizing the informal sector now for as long as I've been on Smooth FM doing business. You have to incentivize those informal folks and bring them into the nets. So the question is, do they want to pay taxes? They don't, right? I think so. They are worried about being chased down by government officials. But if you are doing business and you are selling akara next to some corner of your street, you are benefiting from a corner of your street that was built either by government funds or whatever that allows you to set up your akara stand, and you're making money. So you got to pay somehow. So how do you incentivize that akara seller or the vulcanizer who pumps tires to make them want to pay tax? Now, of course, they can't pay the same taxes as a bank or a supermarket in a mall, but they can pay something, right? So you want to start, really, really small, make sure that they are recognized, make it easy for them to sign up and become recognized. The thing is that it's easier said than done. It's always easy to say it with the mouth, but then the actual actions, I think there are just too many. There's akara sellers all over the country. I don't think there's enough manpower to hunt each and every one of them down and try to formalize them. Plus, vulcanizers, it takes a lot of commitment.
See, Rotus, that's the wrong approach already. I'm sorry.
You
don't have to get people paying taxes, and you talked about to incentivize them. What do they get for the taxes? What's the protection?
Right.
Because if you look at the mafia, what are they offering you for paying them protection money? They're offering you protection. So what are you offering? What is the government? What is the state offering you for paying your taxes? What's in it for you?
Yeah. So the thing is, if you are formally recognized, then I guess you can get more recognition as a business. You can, as far as being, I don't know which akara seller is where. I just walk down a particular road and there's one there, it's there, right? So for that particular business, are they okay with sitting on the corner of the road, only being known by people who walk by? Or do they want to get some kind of assistance from government where they get a sign, where they get a logo, where they get a subsidized, I know that word is very, very strong now, a subsidized corner of a particular business district where they can be formally recognized, and who knows, digital advertising, things like that. So if recognition and more business is what you want to get out of this as a byproduct of being formally recognized, then you can sell that to them. Now, whether they accept it or not, some will say, no, I don't want. I want to stay in my corner, sell my akara quietly, and then go and do what I want. So it's really challenging. And that's why things haven't improved in that regard. It's just been really, really tough.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so this tax matter is tough. Yeah.
And then one thing that I've kind of been watching is the idea of tax holidays. So I feel like that's a bit of a sore point for some people and some
It
businesses.
is. Yeah, like I know the Labour Party candidate said he's going to review all tax holidays to see if they are benefiting the country at all. I know that around the Apapa Port, Tinkan Island, there were some incentives that were given to some companies to build roads, and they would get, tax credits in exchange for doing that. If you're going to give a tax credit to a company, you are essentially allowing them not to pay taxes for a period of time. And the idea is that they will then make investments by that tax that you have allowed them not to pay. They will now use that savings to either invest in a particular area, or maybe hire more people, or do something that will benefit the community and benefit the government down the line. But I don't know, it doesn't look like it's worked. It doesn't look like we've gotten the benefits that we should have from those tax holidays. So there is a question of having to review them over again and see whether or not they are, because it's money that's lost by the government by giving those tax holidays.
All right, good stuff, Rotus. Now let's talk about internet, and this is a very, very big point for a lot of Nigerians, businesses, individuals, and so on and so forth. Now let's talk Elon Musk, our should I say, very, very interesting character. So looking at his Starlink, that's his internet service, the cost to actually set up that internet service in Nigeria, are they justified?
Yeah, $600, which if you use, what rates do we use now? Do we use 400? Sorry, do we use 740?
We can use both.
Your setup cost. So what's the setup cost? Yeah, 740 times $600 is 444,000. So can you imagine spending over 400K just to set up internet? And then I think his the monthly fee is $30 a month, which is about 22,000, I think. So Starlink is quite expensive, but it's satellites, right? This is literally satellites. You're getting internet access now from low orbit satellites. This is how he's providing assistance to soldiers in Ukraine to help them with the war against Russia by using Starlink to keep them connected. So I don't know how many businesses can afford that. I mean, they're selling it to individuals and businesses. It's the promise of better internet connection, which is incredibly important. It's what you and I, the three of us, are relying on to be able to talk right now. Exactly. And I can put my hand up. Shokwe knows from my experiences on Business Express in the morning. Sometimes there's internet wahala when we get disconnected. So would a Smooth FM want to pay $400,000 to Elon Musk Starlink to set that up? Would other businesses will do that if they can be assured of better internet? Because that seems to be where we're going. If you want proper quality, you're gonna have to pay the money, but that cost has to come down. Come on, that's it. $600 to set that up. That's really high.
It's quite a huge chunk. We've got a message in from Tally, who is talking about the Akarasela and taxation, saying there is already a structure for collecting taxes from the informal sector. The Akarasela in the corner pays some form of tax or levy to local government officials.
Yeah, the problem is that money does not go into government coffers. There was a report that was, I don't know who did it, I can't remember who put that report out, but maybe it was Business Day newspaper or Financial Derivatives. The touts, Agberos, is using Lagos as an example, are diverting money that is supposed to be coming from a lot of these folks, and they're keeping it. So if this is the thing, if there's a structure in place that allows for these informal folks to pay something, then you should see the dividend of that. You should see the outcome where the government doesn't have to continue to be raising taxes using the Finance Act, because you've got a large informal sector that is paying something. It's not working. Either they're not getting enough of people in the informal sector to pay, or they are getting enough people to pay, and the money is not going into government coffers. And sadly, with corruption, if you are a local government official in a particular area, you can strike a deal with some of these touts to collect money that you can just share with them. I mean, it's a whole lot of transparency that needs to happen. A lot of digitization needs to happen in that area as well, so you can see who is paying what and where that money goes. But we definitely are not where we need to be with respect to the informal sector being formalized.
And I believe it does go back to structure, because at the end of the day, if you ask somebody in the informal sector where such large volumes of cash are moving on a daily basis, might I add, if you ask somebody there, they'll say that they are paying their taxes. They're paying them. They don't care who they're paying them to. Just leave them alone, let them pay the money.
Exactly. I mean, I know market women in certain areas of Lagos, they have stalls, they pay some kind of levy to the local government. But, again, all these people are paying these things. Roads are not being, not properly done. You still get flooding. The city shuts down. We need to see the outcome of this money, whether the levies need to be increased or a wider, effective collection strategy needs to be implemented. One of the two has to happen, because we're not seeing it.
So, Rotus, would you actually go for Starlink?
I don't have the money. I would consider it, but I think it's expensive.
A big man like you, I mean.
No. There are other competitors. That's the thing. I hope this will make competitors sit up, because but that price points, it's incredibly high. But then, so somebody's going to try it out, I assume, and then we'll get a testimony where they tell us whether or not this is solid internet that is good enough, and then we'll see what happens. Maybe if enough people sign up, Starlink can bring those costs down. But this is an area this is technology at its finest, where hopefully you can improve internet connectivity for businesses. Because in this digital age, conferences, Zoom calls, processing, communications, all these things rely so much on it. Transfers, for payments and so on and so forth. And almost everything relies on internet infrastructure. So we'll see what Elon Musk and his people can do.
Because imagine, and it was something I noticed over the holidays, if the businesses have access to reliable internet for even these festive periods where everything seems to shut down and break down, then I don't know, some of them might be looking at that cost and saying that's not a lot of money compared to the peace of mind.
This might be like an investment, a long-term investment of sorts.
You know how you see something very expensive and you get it, and then just to justify it, because you know that you needed to get it, you start breaking it down into, this is really how much I'm paying daily. So by the time they break it down, they might be like, well, it's like $2 daily to be able to get good internet. They might do that. You never know. All right, now one thing that let's talk about this. And I like the fact that we get to speak about it on Business Hub. Burna Boy's concerts. Burna Boy's concerts and the travails of concert promoters in Nigeria.
Not the first, not the last.
So he came out. Obviously, we know what happened from the concerts, where people waited for hours on end before he came out, and then told them if they loved him, then they loved him. But then Burna Boy released a message, and I saw it earlier today, in which he basically said that the issues that happened were because of the concerts organizers, as opposed to anything on his part. And he said that he can't do another concert in Lagos like this. He's gonna have to start investing in infrastructure, because he needs, as a world-class artist, he needs to give us a world-class performance. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but something like that.
You hit the nail on the head. So imagine, replace Burna Boy with any other business here. Replace him with anybody providing any service, and they tell you that the infrastructure is not good enough in Nigeria, to where that person that is doing a business is now doing the job of government and has to provide their own infrastructure to be able to raise it to the standard of our peers around the world. And I mean, look, as a business, the concert promotions should be something that are thriving in this country. But unfortunately, when do we have these concerts? It's Christmas and Easter, all right? When else? If you look, try this out when you have the time. Go and Google Burna Boy concert or Burna Boy 2023 concerts. He has lined up his shows for summer already. He has a concert in France in May. He's got a concert in the UK in June. I think he has another one in DC or Orlando, Florida later on. He's lined it up. If you see the ticket prices for this thing, I should forward it to you. The one in France depending on where you sit, the tickets are going anywhere from $250 to over $600. That is the same $600 Starlink is charging to set up internet is what some people in France are paying to see Burna Boy. And that, I mean, look, France is a $3 trillion economy. The GDP per capita in France is about $45,000 per person. Nigeria's GDP is what, 440 million, and your per capita GDP is only about barely $2,000 per person. So you have to have there's a reason why Burna Boy, Thames, and Whiskey perform overseas, because that's where they get their money. And when they go on tour, I mean, look at the way he was talking to you. I know there was another issue where he came out saying, you people were saying I killed somebody at Cubana, my mother danced for something. He said some disrespectful thing. Yeah. So he can't talk like that at Coachella. He can't talk like that at Madison Square Garden or the O2 Arena to the fans there. He won't dare do that, because those are people that are, paying a lot of money and putting money in his pocket. So it's a sad situation where our purchasing power is so low because the economy didn't grow. We didn't create wealth, here where we can actually, pay that type of money to be able to justify a Whiskey. Look at what didn't Whiskey make news by performing a free concert? Wasn't it? I remember he announced that his show would be free or something. So we don't need these charitable gestures. Nigeria should be competing with the Frances and the UKs and the United States to be housing these artists here. They are our artists. We claim them when they go around the world. But for all intents and purposes, these guys are foreign acts, because they do not feel they can make enough money at home when it comes to doing these shows. And that is money that is being left on the table. We're talking about Finance Act and taxing, sectors. You have a sector here with artists that should be able to bring a big show to a venue. Speaking of venues, where does Burna Boy perform when it comes to Lagos? It's not Echo Hotel. I mean, where is the equivalent of the Wembley Stadium in the UK where they perform? Where's the equivalent of Madison Square Garden?
The O2 Arena.
O2 Arena. You can't be coming here and performing at Echo. No disrespect to Echo. Echo Hotel is fantastic, but I'm saying it can't be a hotel. It's got to be a respectable venue. So that's infrastructure. So now if you have
designed for that purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Or it can double for sports venues and also double for because the O2 Arena, I know they used it for the ATP tennis when the last tennis. They use it for tennis, they use it for sports, they use it for music, all these things. So whether he was making an excuse or not, because some people were saying he was making excuses and some accused him of lying. Whatever the case may be, he makes a good point about infrastructure. He now said that in his Instagram post that I'll have investors talk to me. Imagine Burna Boy asking for investors to help him build infrastructure in his own country so he can host a proper concert. So there's so much there that is being left on the table in terms of money that businesses can be able to. I mean, imagine a proper concert in a big venue. All these businesses would advertise. The Akara seller we're talking about can take their Akara place and go and sell Akara outside the venue for people who want to watch Burna Boy or anybody else. It's such a wide Starlink could have been supplying internet to people who want to use Wi-Fi so they can take pictures and
live stream and stuff like that.
Ecosystem that is just could be so wide. So could so much money there from different avenues, and we're just not taking advantage, unfortunately not,
Rotus, I'm not sure. I followed you down parts of the path, but I stopped at the point. The reason being that, okay, you've put us now in the same sentence as more developed countries. Yes, we've been a few decades in the business of being a state, but we're still developing. And so, first of all, there are a couple of questions on us. First of all, you talk about purchasing power, and there is the real conversation that needs to be had about our purchasing power and how we can increase it. But then again, do we not have any other power apart from purchasing power? Because if you think about the artists that we are, that the system and society and developing nation that we the artists that we are creating, is that not a power that we have of our own?
It is, but the thing is, a $200. How many Nigerians can afford a $200 ticket to watch Burna Boy if he was to come and perform at, I don't know, the stadium in Abuja? How many? There are not enough of them to justify him coming to perform here. So look, the president said he wanted to lift people out, 100 million people out of poverty. What that literally means when you want to lift people out of poverty, you're making them more wealthy. You are generating wealth and raising their status from where they are to the point to where you can say, oh, if you're a Nigerian and you go to school and you get a degree, you're guaranteed to get a job in X amount of time. You're guaranteed to afford your own home, guaranteed to afford a car, guaranteed to be able to travel, guaranteed to be able to pay for concert tickets to see Wizkid or Thames or Burna Boy during the summer. That is wealth creation. But we have not been able to do that. Look at where the inflation is, look at where the Naira is. We've just become poorer over the last 8 years, and there are ripple effects from becoming poorer to where we cannot simply enjoy one of our own homegrown artists who had to more or less jackpot and go overseas to go and perform and make their own money. That is where the wahala is. And yes, you're right. We're a developing nation, but for how long? We've been developing for how many years
for
now?
A while.
Yeah, so
Quite a while.
if we're still talking about this in January of 2023, then then that's just sad, you know. That's you can't be Wizkid cannot be making news in Lagos by giving away a free concert. That's not the type of headline it should be.
Hold
making.
on though, this is Business Hub, and we're talking about SMEs and we're talking about business practices, right? Why can't Nigeria be their loss leader?
Why can't Nigeria
be their loss leader?
In
the fact that they are generating because think about it. Businesses have loss leaders for a reason. A certain drinks company sells water just for the presence of their brand. Do they not?
Yeah.
Why can't Nigeria be their loss leader? Think about it, Rotus. If they're making money from all over the world, but their fan base grew from Nigeria, their popularity grew from Nigeria and then took over the rest of the world. You have to remember that Nigeria has a power. Yes, we don't have the power that you might want us to have right now, but there is a power. So why can we not be the loss leader? Why is that such a laughable option?
Because the music industry is a $1 billion industry. We can't leave that kind of money on the table and allow
But for now, while we're still developing, why are we being discounted? Is it that so from this now, what would be the logical next step, that the artist would no longer perform in Lagos? Is that what we're going to look at?
Well, yeah, because so the look, see how long think of Nigerian music, go back King Sunny Ade, Fela. I mean, we've been doing this. We've been doing this for years. I mean, this are going back here. So, if you get to a point where your own artists cannot make money, and it's not just the artists, we need to just expand this conversation outside the artists. It is the ecosystem. Think of a concept that comes to a country and a city and all the people that it brings together, right? All of that is we're losing out on that simply because there are only a few of us that can afford to pay for those tickets, and it's just not enough. So there's so much that needs to be built. We could have had this, maybe I should have started with this topic because there's so much more I wanted to say.
And now, no more time.
Yeah, I know.
It flies when you're having a very good conversation.
Oh yeah.
All right. Go catch the replay if you just tuned in, or if you came in at the tail end of it. You can always go over to youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos to catch the replay. Rotus, I still believe that there's lost leader. I don't.
You're standing by that.
I'm standing by it, lost leader. All right. But it's been an interesting one. Maybe we should have started with this first because, like you said, there's still so much that to be said about this, but they've run out of time. Okay,
thanks guys.
Rotus,
thanks so much.
See you on the next one. All right, coming up, we have got great music for you. Oh, and watch out for 7:00. Total Football is going to be on. We'll have Praise and the gang in here, and they will be discussing what's going on in the beautiful game.
Everything business. Tools and tips for a successful business.
Usually on Tuesdays,